Hey, welcome everybody. I am Stuart Cohen, and this is my special guest. This is
Jeff Gayduk from Premier Travel Media.
It's good to see you, Jeff.
Good to see you as well, Stuart.
Good to see you, good to hear you, and I'm so grateful that you're going to join us for this hour. Hey, friends and advisors all over the world, including from Greece, thank you for joining us. Was it Karen? Yes. No, it was Christine from Greece, Karen from Wyoming. We got Mitch from Denver, people from all over the world. This is global, very cool. And today's focus is going to be traveling tribes. My friend Jeff, who's an industry expert and may not be a household name just yet for you, published this book, and it's phenomenal. It's called Traveling Tribes, Your Next Side Gig as a Group Travel Influencer. We got lots to talk about. So we're really, friends, today we're really going to focus on building your tribe, which, interestingly enough, that's why you're in the business, right? Your whole sole purpose to be successful here is to have a tribe. So we're going to focus on that as it relates to groups, in a group's context, which is Jeff's absolute focus and expertise. So here's how this podcast works. If you've got a question, you've got a comment, let your fingers do the typing. Please type it in. I will do my best to ask every question, whether it's directed to me or to Jeff. Please go ahead and do that. Also, I want to let you know that we have two other guests coming up. If you want to be in the audience for a live recording, the next one is Feb 4. Catherine Heeg is going to be my guest. We're going to talk lead magnets. On Feb 18, Britton Frost is going to be my guest. We're going to talk small ship cruises. There you go. And I do have a big announcement to make about Group Sales Boot Camp Live. Jeff, watch this. Very important. Group Sales Boot Camp Live. The hands go up, the hat is on, and we're going to get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome. And I started off by saying that you may not know Jeff. Now, if you've been a part of my group sales success summits, Jeff has graced us with his expertise there. And the thing is, Jeff's a big wig in the travel industry as it relates to groups. He's the publisher of Premier Travel Media, but I'm going to let Jeff explain how he fits into this whole travel culture. Go ahead, Jeff. Let us know.
Good, thank you, Stuart. Again, it's great to be on with you today. Good to see you, albeit not live, but at least in person live, but yes, over the GoToWebinar. So in short, our company, we're a publishing organization, and we operate in a series of vertical markets. All of them are directly influenced by the group travel sector. So we have a series of wholly owned brands that we publish under within the leisure group travel industry, within the student market, the family reunions and family group travel sectors, the faith-based market, and also the sports tournament industry. So, we operate very much like a publishing company would. Folks that are travel advisors would know, like the travel weeklies and the travel agents and such. So we have print guides, newsletters, websites, webinars, those sort of things. But really in contrast, where they're focused on the travel agent sector, ours is people that plan group travel. And that can include travel advisors, that can include tour operators. Obviously, based on the segment, it's going to differ. When you get into like the family reunion market, tends to be a little bit more direct, where Aunt Katie's booking this year's reunion. When you get into the faith-based market, it may be the pastor or the priest who's organizing, or the women's club who's planning a spiritual retreat or pilgrimage. So, our position in the industry is really to help facilitate the group travel movement, whether that be through how-to pieces on the mechanics of organizing groups, the marketing of groups, the selling of groups, or the where aspect of what's hot, where to travel. Is it cruises, land destinations, different countries here in the US, which is becoming very popular, So that's the business in a nutshell. We also partner with a number of government and state tourism offices, do some custom publishing guides for them, countries like beautiful Switzerland, different state organizations in the U.S., associations in the business. That's all sort of behind the scenes where we produce material for them, but have heavily embedded in the group travel sector for sure.
Okay. Okay, I appreciate you setting that stage, because I was asked by a couple of travel advisors, hey, wait a minute, is this book written for travel advisors or for anybody, a tribe leader? And I said, I just answered the word yes. And again, I want to tell everybody who's with us right now that the purpose of our Power Hour is not to sell Jeff's book, which you can get as an ebook too, by the way, but because it has so much profoundly essential information that he's sharing with everybody. Okay, and a reader of this book, if they're not a travel advisor by profession, but they're already a tribe leader or want to be because they love travel and they love traveling together with friends and family or a group, they may not have the wherewithal to do it themselves, and guess who they need? Yes, you. But you got to know where they're hanging out, how to find them, how to talk to them. And number two, you can follow the same exact strategies, which are really, Jeff, you just write them, at a very an easy level of understanding. We don't need to complicate this. So give us, please, just an overview of why you wrote the book and what it does, what it says. Then I have specific questions because, when we talked right before we went live, you used the two words, golden age. Golden age of group travel is ahead, not behind us. It's ahead. So we'll talk about that after. But just tell me, why did you write this book, and what do you want it to accomplish?
Sure, I appreciate the kind words, Stuart. So this, I think, like many books projects, was a few years in the making. I got the idea from customers of ours, from seeing people come into the group market, whether as an advisor, a fledgling tour company, or as a group leader. And I've done interview columns and now doing most of them via Zoom with people that have kind of bumped into the travel industry through a confluence of events. And it's all really interesting backgrounds. But the common denominator is that they've all kind of captured the essence of what makes group travel special. So I thought, if I could get that story down and show other people how they've done it and give them a blueprint of how the group travel market works, those of you that are currently selling and promoting groups know that it's not rocket science, but there's a bit of an art to it, and there takes some fluency and some nuances in order to be good at it. And I think that's really what we provide. Myself, I've been doing this for 20 years as a publisher. Before that, I worked for Premier Cruise Line. If those of you, I call them old timers, remember the big red boat days?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I worked for a travel consortia for 5 years. I owned my own tour business for a few years. So, real well-rounded, I think, experience in the travel industry overall, but specifically in the group market. So, what I started to see over a period of time, Stuart, was that there was a bit of a pipeline challenge, where, you mentioned the word golden age of group travel. I think historically there was a golden age of the group tour market, which started sometime in the late 70s and kind of carried us through the 1990s. And that was where, any person who was retiring and got their pension or their Social Security, they'd never traveled before, they're like, oh, we need to go somewhere, let's go on a group trip. And people were just flocking towards that sector. And that was really the first generation of this group travel leader movement. But as those people got older and they retired and their business retired with them, we started to see different sectors emerge. The faith-based travel market, for example,
Right.
colleges and alumni organizations that started organizing group travel and being successful with that. And then kind of came a flow of independent sort of niche base. So I thought if I could articulate what their stories were and set people off on the process of, you have certain characteristics that make you a great personality, and I think that's one of the common denominators of a good group leader.
Agreed.
We could develop that sort of new pipeline of business going forward, and to shed awareness, because and as I point out in the book, nobody sits in front of their first grade classmates and raises their hand and say, I'm going to be a group travel leader, but people that have kind of bumped into this process and have sort of learned the ropes have had very rewarding experiences because of it.
Yep, I agreed. I want to read something to everybody, and travel advisors, listen carefully to the words Jeff has here, because if this doesn't resonate with you, this is the wrong podcast, let alone the wrong business for you, right? If you have the desire to travel, organizational skills, and the gumption to lead people, you're in the right place. Gumption to lead people, right? Because Jeff, and I'm not done yet, but I just want to take an aside that every travel advisor listening right now, and you've heard me say this before, why are we so focused on, I need to go find business, I need to advertise, I need to go what we call push marketing, try to find people and sell my big ideas to do this big group. Well, no. What I've said, and what Jeff is confirming too, it's about pull marketing. It's about developing a tribe, people to follow you, right? And it says here, from Gen Z to baby boomers, anyone who's willing to give it a go can do this, regardless of their present income, education, and technical proficiency. Right? And just one more thing about responsibilities. Perhaps the most important responsibility is to listen carefully, cultivate travelers. Without them, it just doesn't go anywhere. You might not have 50 names in your back pocket waiting to travel with you tomorrow, but that's okay. Tribes can start with as few as 6 people. Another great point, Jeff, that I tell travel professionals, I think we're so focused on, oh, I need the big group. I need the 50, I need the 100. And we're focused more on quantity versus quality. So let's talk about that for a second, about cultivating, which in travel, in professional terms, is sourcing new business, really. But I love the word cultivate better. So just give us your thoughts on that in sort of industry speak, but making it so that everyone listening now can say, oh, yeah, I can do that. I got that. It makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I certainly don't want to disparage those from looking at larger groups. I think that the inherent challenge with that is, if it's a pre-established group and they're already running trips, pre-COVID, they have existing relationships. So you've got to sort of break that cycle in order to be successful. However, at the same time, looking at what characteristics of that group are, can you find similar organizations and build them up to that level? If you can profile what successful group leaders have done in the past, you can then develop a process upon which you approach them, and you're actually planting the seed and the idea with them of, hey, why don't we look at XYZ? And there's a number of different sectors that qualifies with. But as we all look to sort of rebuild our business, some of those big groups may not come back for whatever reason. I think that's something that we all have to really be faced with. But at the same time, we think about what we've really missed most through this pandemic, and that's sharing experiences and spending time with people that we care about and people that we have common interests with. And that's happening all over the world right now. So, I think that there's going to be this, not only a pent up demand for travel, but the pent up demand for the human connection. And in many ways, we think about all these pivots that people have done where they're doing virtual cooking classes and virtual Zumba classes, and just the networking that's taking place via the computer. That's all great, but it's not a panacea. We ran into this situation. I'll kind of dive off in a little different direction with my school-aged children. Who they're bouncing back between remote learning and in-person learning, and we finally got back to in-person learning this Tuesday after Martin Luther King Day. After school, I pick up my son and I said, "Hey, how was school today?" He's like, "Dad, you're not going to believe how great it was to actually see people and talk with them in person again."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now they're on Zoom class every day, Stuart. They're they've got their iPhones and chatting back and forth or in video games, but that person-to-person interaction. So that's really where I think there's going to be some special opportunities going forward. And even if you haven't done this before, and your organization has not used travel, I think it's a unique opportunity to head in that direction.
Yeah, I agree. And you said something that I want to pick up on. I want everyone to listen up very carefully. Through the current events that we've been dealing with, you have more people than ever pivoting to doing Zoom and doing these virtual type events. Okay. Some have been wildly successful. Some, had dreamed about it or dreamed about it in the past, but now it's like, okay, now's my time to shine. And they have, in fact, developed their own tribe, their own followers, whether it's yoga, whether it's Zumba, whether it's cooking classes. I mean, there's a million different things. And travel advisors, I hope you're getting excited now because these are all potential niches, okay, that maybe you have already declared. Maybe your specialty is geography and history. Maybe your specialty is wine, whatever it is. I'm here to tell you, and I think Jeff is also here to confirm, that there's a whole new crop, if you will, of influencers who have put themselves out there. The most successful ones are committed to it, have built a following, and guess what, Jeff? Aren't these the next generation of group leaders who can be working with travel advisors to get group trips off the ground so they can monetize their recent efforts?
You're 100% correct, Stuart. In the point of pairing your passion with travel is such a unique opportunity, because you're taking something that you know and you love, and you can speak with somebody on a peer level about, and adding that travel element, which they're not an expert in. And I think that's really is, as I go through in the book, and I provide some mechanical and some operational advice on how to actually organize group trips, because that's part of what we do, and that chain has been established for decades now. But at the same time, there's a big chasm between having the group together and having the want to be able to organize, or excuse me, to travel somewhere, and the mechanical operations to actually pull it off. And I think that's the huge opportunity for travel advisors going forward, is to find these various niches where you can operate and you provide your services to them, where you understand how the industry works and how to negotiate with suppliers and all the different if, ands, or buts that go into putting things together. And I think versus these groups of 50 that we talked about earlier, start small and you work your way up. Certainly suppliers, and if you're talking with cruise lines and tour operators now, I mean they're working very aggressively to earn business back. So sure. You go to them with a small group and an idea of where you want to travel to, and I think they'll approach you back with open arms. So, but as that first trip takes off, and we've seen this hundreds and hundreds of times, and people come back and they're sharing on social media, or when in-person gatherings are couth again, and saying, "Oh, you really missed the such and such trip to XYZ." that's going to only fuel that going forward. So now is the time to set that base and to start those relationships and those contacts, because people have been communicating through this. They've been dreaming through this. What they miss most is travel and those shared experiences. So marry them together with these small private group journeys.
That's it. That's it. Friends, we can't stress enough. In any business, this is true, but especially in the travel business, if you sit back and, well, I'm going to wait and get my fair share, my phones will ring because there's going to be the big bounce back, the big surge. Okay, you'll get a sprinkling, but the travel advisor, the travel entrepreneur, Jeff, as I like to say, is the one who's going to be planting the seeds now, having these conversations now. And I know Karen D, who's here, she's a part of boot camp too. She has reported some great news. She's even partnered with another travel advisor in a specific niche. And Nancy had just shared with me that, and I'm going to see if I can pull that up and read that shortly, that she's having Jeff, I don't know what you think about these. I suggest everyone have these 15-minute meetings. Reach out, say, hey, listen, you got 15 minutes. I follow your show. I read your book. I listen to your podcast. I attended your Zoom class. It's fun. It's fascinating. I want to learn more about you.
Yeah.
Get engaged.
It's a great idea.
Yeah. So, hey, listen, everybody, if you just joined us, I want to make sure you know we're talking to Jeff Gayduk. He published a book that's called Traveling Tribes, Your Next Side Gig as a Group Travel Influencer. It's not available on Schmamazon, but you can get the hard copy or the ebook on his website. I will give you the website name, and I'll also put it in the show notes. leisuregrouptravel.com, leisuregrouptravel.com/traveling tribes. Okay, but again, if you think you need this information, get it. I'm not here to sell books. Jeff's going to sell a ton of these, but I'm here because the information inside, I think, it can really be transformative to your success. So, in the book also, you don't just tell people, hey, this is a great idea. Have fun. It's going to be great. But you give very specific instructions and strategies, from marketing to planning a calendar of trips, right? Because Jeff, 2 weeks ago on the show, I was telling agents, do you have your group book that you're going to lead in 2022? Is it on the books? Is it on the calendar? But you talk about itineraries and negotiating and understanding contracts. Is there one thing there in terms of the intricacies that and we could talk about multiple ones that you want to talk about, where you have seen be the sort of scary, but once you know it, once you master it, I got this. Is there any area where you think we want to highlight that these professionals on the line right now really need to up their game?
Yeah, I think it would fall under the contracting note, Stuart, is that we tend to, I think about when you go to a website and you blanketly accept whatever the terms and conditions are. Nobody's reading through that fine print. And, especially coming out of this and understanding that it's going to be very fluid and, we're trying to build from zero, is to understand things like attrition clauses and deposit and final payment dates, because, the last thing that you want to do through this process, if you do happen to, let's say you go to a yoga studio and, these guys are trying to rebuild their business, and you cooperate together on doing a yoga retreat, and, and you have to go to the yoga studio owner 60 days before and say, oh, I didn't put the deposit down, I lost the space. Well, all that hard work and effort that you put in is all for naught. So, really to understand, first of all, that is negotiable, right? And, getting back to what we said earlier, is that, everybody's going to be hungry for business. So read through the contracts, understand what the terms are, and that things are open for negotiation. but to make sure that you're on top of that, through your calendar system, through working with your clients and such, all those things that we inherently know, but it becomes so much more important when you're dealing with groups, just because of the sort of all or nothing aspect of some of those sort of situations.
Yep, I agree. I appreciate you sharing that. I think even our industry folks have been here for 20 years. Okay. Friends, I'm looking at you now. Do you take the time to read the fine print? And do you ask what is negotiable? And do you understand the terms of deposits and the refunds? Because when you get that call from a prospective client or somebody who's already paid or wanting to join, and it's too late, or you can't get the space, or they pull back, whatever it is, are you prepared for it? Have you outlined those terms and conditions to them? Because you don't make the supplier the bad guy here. All right, it's your job to adequately and thoroughly lay it down, because you're in control here. Because if you give all the credit, good or bad, to the supplier or the brand, Jeff, as I like to call them, brands versus suppliers, then why does the consumer need you? You got to own this from beginning to end. You have to understand it. You have to know how it works. You have to move forward with confidence. So I want to read a couple of comments here. And friends, if you have any questions for Jeff, and by the way, on Jeff's site, Jeff's company, they have an enormous amount of data, information. Now, I really didn't present that too well, Jeff, because who wants data? That sounds scary, but facts and figures and helpful stuff. We're going to come back to that in a second. But I want to read this from Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Lisa posted a picture of a beautiful villa in Sicily on her Facebook page. It's a 9-bedroom villa. And so she said, Sicily, May 2022, who is joining us? Now get this, everybody. Lisa already has, after 2 weeks, she sold, already have two sold. 2 weeks of this sold. And she's working on filling a 3rd week. Okay, so she's sold 2 weeks of this 9-bedroom villa, and she's working on selling it. I mean, that's awesome. I love it. Dottie wants the website again. It is, you give the website again, Jeff?
leisuregrouptravel.com/traveling tribes. There's also a menu item in the upper left-hand corner. You can go ahead and just click on that, or, again, browse around the site. We do a newsletter, print magazine, again, a lot of advice columns and such.
Cool. Hey, James has a question for you, Jeff. James wants to know, what are your thoughts on fundraising group travel? Is it a bad idea to give a portion of the commission as a donation?
You hit the nail on the head, James. I think charitable organizations, fundraising, it's a great way to marry a cause with something that people want to do. So instead of, here's the Super Bowl raffle, or we're going to be drawing for big screen TV, is to give that organization a chance to bring their people together again, because once they can bring their people together, and maybe somebody from that organization travels along with that, there's an opportunity to only enhance that process. And again, those people go back and it spreads virally, whether that's through in-person meetings or whether that's through social media. So I think that's awesome. And I wouldn't even look at it as far as giving a percentage of the commission back. Again, understand that going out of this, everything is going to be negotiable. So if you're working with a brand like a tour company or a cruise line, I know, pre-pandemic, Carnival had a specific program that was for charitable organizations, where they would donate a percentage back of the cruise to that organization. So that's not coming out of your pocket. If you have to do a little bit of a rev share with that, that's something that you have to consider as a business person. But yeah, there's an awesome opportunity there, because those organizations are hurting through this as well. You think about anybody who's relying on donations and weekly attendance in order to sort of fill their coffers. That business has slowed dramatically in many circumstances. So definitely do that.
Agreed. Yeah, and understand. Jeff, you said the words rev share, everybody. That means revenue share. And in James's question, he referred to as a commission share. Look, friends, I'm telling you right now, I've always said for years, and I've been in this beautiful industry for, I don't even know, 27, 28 years, but, number one, don't be a commission hostage. I say that lovingly, but don't be handcuffed to only earning your 10%, 12%, 15, whatever it is. One of the secrets to success in group travel is that you net it down and mark it up and make what you believe is a fair profit and selling it as a fair price, because you should always be selling the package. Okay, very important. So James, I just want to add on to what Jeff said too, is that your commission and your tour conductors, your tour credits, they're nobody's business but yours. And you make sure that you build into the package price the fundraising. I don't think, and Jeff, tell me, should it be come out? You tell me, Jeff. Should the fundraising component come out of the travel advisor's pocket or from an add-on so that everyone who's buying it and participating? Just straighten this out for us.
Yeah, well, I think if you can do it as an add-on, that's certainly the preferred method. And even going back to, I forget the lady who had the Italian villa booked for next year. That's an environment where she's controlling that inventory. She's getting a rate on that and then splitting it per person. So you're able to work the numbers, so to speak, to where who's ever traveling on that is getting an exclusive experience. And I think that's something that's really unique. And then at the same time, you can control your margins. Now, as you start getting into environments, if you're selling a Carnival cruise, for example, you can't be selling that for $300 more than what it's available to the general public, because we all know that people are shopping these days and making sure that they're getting the best deals. So I don't know that blindly people are going to go in there, but if you can develop a combination of exclusive experiences that people can't get other places, that allows you to better control those margins, including adding in different percentages for fundraisers and things of that sort. So it's all about that experience.
I agree, and that's the key to it. Keywords, everybody, what Jeff just said: exclusive experiences. Because you can charge more than everybody else. I want you to charge more than anybody else, because you're not going to sell the stripped down bare bones off the shelf package. You're going to sell a more inclusive package, because you're going to give your group experiences that they're not going to get otherwise, because they want to do stuff as a group. And I know, Jeff, you talk about that. In fact, I'm on your list. I get your reunions, right? You do a huge job with reunion travel. And in fact, I got one today. And you talk about a bazillion activities. What can you do? So, friends, that's just another resource, another tool that Jeff's publishing company offers if you want to subscribe to that, because he'll give you a bazillion of his editors or whatever will give you a bazillion ideas. If you can't think of stuff that they can be doing, he'll give you those ideas. Jackie asks this question. Oh, by the way, I did post the URL so you can take a look at Jeff's, whether you buy the hard copy or ebook or just read what it's about. So everyone should have gotten it by now, and it'll be in the show notes too. So Jackie says, "Hi Stuart, I have a group of people that want to do couples getaway and honeymoons." Interesting. How many honeymoons can you do? This is interesting. I don't really know, but let's just go with couples getaways. She wants to know, do I disclose the locations of the resorts I suggest on social media? This allows them to possibly Google it themselves. I have an answer, but Jeff, what do you think of that? Putting it out there.
You'd have to ask yourself, are people going to book it without knowing the name of the resort? I mean, that's certainly part of the draw. But I think, again, it drives back to what added value are you adding to the equation that makes people want to travel with you? And then, again, if it's let's say you're working with sandals and you've got 18 people coming down, what sort of things can you build into that program that makes that a truly hassle-free experience? I think that, whether it's couples or it's families, we all need to understand that the rules of travel have changed. And that's, I think, another benefit of these sort of private bubble type travel groups is that if you're vetting the vendors and making sure that the experience is as safe and as welcoming as it can be, you're eliminating that huge hassle factor that we all know came with travel before, but is going to be multiplied coming out of this. So, it's really being able to hit that easy button, saying that, I know Karen's, vetted the resort down in the Caribbean, and we've got some extras that are built in. Plus, we're able to travel with X, Y, and Z. And gosh, we haven't seen them since, Christmas of 2019. How fun is that going to be? Right? Yeah. So you're sort of building blocks in removing barriers of why people would say no to a vacation. We know people are going to go bonkers coming out of this, but they're not going to just blindly hop on an airplane and hope that the restaurants are open and that the sightseeing tours are available. But if you've done your homework and you've negotiated all this through the process, then they're going to be able to do what they're there to do, which is enjoy their vacation and let somebody else handle all the mess.
Exactly. Very well put. I know. In 2017, my wife and I, we escorted our own friends and family group on a river cruise. And, it was my vacation too, Jeff, but it's always hard work, and any advisor listening right now, if you've escorted, which, boy, I sure hope you escort every group you possibly can, it's a lot of hard work, but the better organized you go in and the better prepared your travelers are, so there are no surprises, then the smoother it goes. So here are some comments I want to read. Karen D reminded us that it's important to tell the brand you're going to be doing a fundraising event, because some brands have special fundraising options. Like she is suggesting Sea Dream Yacht Cruises offers what's called consignment fares for charities, and I do know some brands do have special rates or certificates you can even buy. Michelle offers earnings we receive are absolutely nobody else's business, right? And to that effect, Jeff, I always tell travel professionals that not to disclose those details, but nothing should be a gimme, especially if it's an incentive that goes back to the organization, whether it's a freebie or earnings. And I know fundraising, you may have to say, okay, from stateroom 1 or from room 1, you will earn, but make sure that's outlined clearly, especially if there are levels, sales levels. So you're not giving it away, right? So that organization says, man, we got skin in the game here to promote this like crazy, right? So Karen D says, and I'll ask you this question, Jeff, because I've answered this before, and it's always tricky. So you're working with clients, right? And it could be somebody who just started a travel tribe, which is what your book is all about, or one of our travel advisors has started their own tribe and they're going to lead it. And let's say they're working with let's say in this case, though, they're working with another potential group leader, and the group leader says, tell me about the tour conductors. I want them. How are you going to earn them? So obviously they know they're a little savvy. What would you tell that potential client, because you really don't want to reveal it? What would you say?
Sure. Well, I think in today's environment, information is easily accessible. So, you don't want to deliberately withhold information, and it may actually become part of the process. So, we've talked about various groups. Let's say you're working with the yoga studio and the owner is really enthusiastic about promoting a trip and getting their customers back on. That may be an incentive that you're able to give to the studio owner that really makes them push this thing out, and could be the difference between the trip running and it falling apart. That being said, again, all this is negotiable. So, do you want to earn, what's your purpose with it? Do you want to travel with the group? And if that's the case, then you have to reserve one of those tour conductors for yourself. Do you want to earn additional money through being able to take the difference between what that tour conductor is? Well, that all again kind of falls back into how you price this out. If you're hitting your margin, and again, by, adding these experiences in and sort of netting it down and creating something that's truly unique, as long as you're hitting your number of what you need to earn, the tour conductor is just one of those pieces of the puzzle.
Right. It's one of those pieces. It's not the be all and end all. And if you don't hit the numbers, you're not going to earn it. So remember to use your spreadsheet and factor in all variables if you go higher or lower to CYA. And I'm not going to say what CYA stands for. You can figure it out, because then I have to mark this podcast as explicit. It's not, it's clean. So I want to read a couple of comments, and then I've got some more questions for you, Jeff. Mitch says, if you are a philanthropist, you can give up your earnings for a donation. Otherwise, the group price should include a donation that they want to contribute towards, not out of the advisor's pocket.
Yeah, good idea, Mitch.
Yeah, exactly. And you hit on this before too, Jeff, which is, look, you can go out with a cruise or with a resort, whatever, some kind of an FIT package of Europe, and you can tack on $200, $300. And if the consumer is going to look it up and say, especially if it's not an FIT, if it's an off-the-shelf package, hey, I could buy it here for $300. You know what? Forget about it. I'm just going to give you a $200 donation. I don't need to go on the trip. Well, the answer there is you have to make the trip compelling. If it's just about the fact that you're going to donate $200 to this charity, which we know you have been donated before, you're on the list of top donors, that's not enough. There's got to be something compelling. What do you think about that, Jeff? Something compelling that's going to happen.
Yeah.
For me to say, yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, why do it? So you definitely need to be able to factor that in.
Yeah. Lisa says, I am dividing price of the villa, which we talked about before, over the group to pay for my room, and adding some exclusive, unique excursions, like hiring a chef, cooking classes, and golf. There you go. You spread the cost, and it's minimalized over everybody. It's baked in, as a chef would say. Kyle says, I'm working with a group to raise money for their cause. If you're only selling the cruise with no land, I would be restricted on the added experiences in port. I would have to use the cruise line short excursion package. So right now, for the foreseeable future, right now, I think what Kyle is saying is that, short in the cruise category, short excursions are limited. They can't add their own. And any ideas? Have you seen any creative ways? I mean, obviously, right now, friends, we're talking under this pandemic mindset of what the current rules are, which will change. But any comment, Jeff?
Well, yeah, I think two things, Stuart. First of all, going back to what we talked about earlier is, you work with the cruise line and explain to them, what type of group this is and what sort of program that they may have that's available to help in the fundraising efforts. And then although the shore excursion process is going to be somewhat limited, by having to use the cruise line's services, there's perhaps some things you can do on board, premium dining and specialty parties and those sort of things that will maybe some cabin upgrades that you can do that generally would not be available. So you just have to look at the different pockets of opportunity and where you can develop that sort of exclusive experience. Even on the big box cruise lines, there's tons of opportunity for uniqueness.
Yeah, I agree. Michelle is asking this question. I'll let you clarify this. This is important for everyone who's listening. She's wondering if you, Jeff, do you sell travel directly to consumers and group leaders?
Do I personally?
Yeah.
Stuart, I'll tell you, I was a travel agent for about 6 months, and if there's a hall of shame of travel agents, I would definitely be in that introductory class. Even as a tour operator, I think one of the things that I learned through building that business is that was not the right business for me.
Yeah.
So no, we provide advice. I've been on tons of group trips, and I've organized them before, so mechanically I know how to do it. But no, we have no product whatsoever. We're really the facilitator between the brand and the person who's orchestrating the groups. There's no commerce that happens within our company.
Jeff runs a publishing company, not a travel company, and his audience, your audience, and your editors, or everything, the content is all travel related, but you're not a seller of travel.
No.
Glad you got clarified that. Dottie, I guess has been to you, was just on your site. Said, Jeff, can we quote from your expert advice column and give credit to your company?
Absolutely.
Cool. Nancy says she wants to be a philanthropist. Then you can. I want it too. Michelle says for a 503c organization where a donation is included in the trip fare, do the guests attending the group trip get to claim that donation as part of their taxes? How would that be handled from the standpoint of the travel advisor?
Great question. I would ask you to consult with your tax attorney for that. I don't know the ins and outs of how that rule works for individual consumers.
Yeah, and that definitely, I would have answered the same thing. You need to consult your accountant or a tax attorney, because it gets tricky when it comes to travel being written off as a corporate expense. And we're not the purveyors of that. We're not the experts there. Get expert advice so you know how to then counsel your travelers, whether they can or cannot write it off, and what your role could be in that. Jacqueline has a question for you, Jeff, about corporate travel. And I'm not sure you go into that here a great deal, but what are your thoughts on corporate travel, not only, generally speaking, but also what's happening now? I'm sure we've obviously, all incentive travel has come to a halt. Almost all business meetings and conventions and exhibitions, also known as MICE, right, have come to a halt. Give us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I would say that corporate travel and meetings and events overall face the longest road to recovery of all sectors of the travel industry. And a lot of that has to deal with organizations having developed new practices of how commerce takes place, including our organization. We had salespeople on the road constantly, face to face with customers or going to meetings and events. And once you take that line item out of budgets and companies still feel that they can persevere, it's going to be difficult to bring it back in. That being said, there will be a breakthrough. And on my way to work every day, I pass 4 different hotels through a commercial area, and I am scouring left and right in the parking lots and just doing sort of an eyeball check of how they're doing. And we're sort of in a corporate area here. And I'll say that as of recently, literally as of this morning, the lots are more full than they've been in some time. So I think that over time, especially, and I heard this, one of the airline executives mentioned that, the first time that your competitor wins a piece of business against you because they sat down in front of a customer and you were trying to Zoom or go to meeting or email, is the next time you hop on an airplane. So, I think like all things, it will be back, but it's going to take some time, and we just have to be patient with that. As that's an organizational decision, but some really smart people. I read a quote, from Bill Gates that said that permanently he feels that corporate travel could be down as much as 50% as companies look at new ways in which to operate. We're all kind of throwing darts at this coronavirus, and how it's going to affect things, but I again, just looking at how the landscape has changed, if if organizations can eliminate budget items and still prosper, they're going to do that. Whereas the leisure travel, the reconnecting with those that we care about and the causes we care about, that's fundamental to our nature. We're a tribal society, right? Even the most ardent solo travelers and people that have sworn off group travel are just tired of staying at home and working from home. So, that's the desire, not the, I got to go to Poughkeepsie next week to go, call on kind of Acme Sprockets, right?
With all due respect to Poughkeepsie, but I understand what you're saying.
It's just cold up there this time of year, Stuart.
Karen D says, she says, au contraire, incentive travel is coming back big time. I think Jeff is agreeing with you. It's just a matter of timing. But she goes on to say, this is Karen's words, I'm working on 3 incentive travel trips. Small businesses lost business last year and want to incentivize their salesmen now at the beginning of the year. Not only that, friends, but there are some businesses, and I'm not going to go through the list of which right now, not only businesses, but hobbies too, that are exploding. Their businesses, like gym equipment, okay, are through the roof. All right. And what a great time for everyone out there. And this brings us back to what we said before, is what under these pandemic conditions, what has taken off, what has really surfaced as I hate to use the word trends, but you got to go with the trends too, even if it's short term. Be first in and go get it. You got businesses who did so great, they can't wait to take their people on a big, exclusive, fancy trip, but they can't yet. You be the one to go get it. But you can't tell them, I do incentives, I do groups. No, you got to ask them. Do you or your spouse or your friends and family work for a company that were blessed to have a banner year, and are they looking to go someplace incredible to celebrate?
Yeah.
Well, let's plan it for 2022.
Same thing can be said along, family travelers. Let's face it, most people that you work with as an advisor are part of a family unit. So planting that seed, maybe you weren't able to get together for Thanksgiving or Christmas or Easter or whatever those traditional holidays and get-togethers that you have. So, while we're happy to plan your individual travel, did you ever think about going to XYZ and, we can do an exclusive villa rental or beach house, or, look at, some of the big cities are really going to be hungry for business coming out of it. So as it becomes safe to travel again. So being able to, again, plant that seed of this is available and we can orchestrate all the behind the scene details. All you have to do is be that conduit that communicates, what we're thinking about, and let us put this together for you and help reunite your family or your friend group, whatever it might be.
Yeah. And did you hear what Jeff just said, everybody? We can help reunite. Now, if you followed me recently or forever, you know that group travel is successful when it solves a problem. If that family hasn't been together and they're just crying to see each other, here's your opportunity. That company hasn't been able to have their meeting, their retreat, or their incentive. You're going to solve that problem. If that organization has had the same old boring annual black tie dinner at the local whatever, you're going to solve the problem by saying, let's do something crazy spectacular, especially since we've been stuck inside. Wow. The golden age of group travel is tomorrow, not in the past. Hey, we only have about, I don't know, my goodness, wow, does time fly? About 6 minutes left. Make sure you type in your questions now while I've got Jeff. And I just want to remind you, if you're here right now, I have uploaded a document. It's a 1-page quick reference guide. It has nothing to do with this conversation here, but then again, it does. Some of you already know that I am not taking any new members into my $800 group sales boot camp. Tough decision. Been doing it since 15. Got to make a move. So instead, I am offering a boot camp live, group sales boot camp live event. It's going to happen twice this year. And I can't think of a better time to understand to get the best strategies, to get your plan ready now, to plant the seeds now, to be a part of the golden age that's coming. Download that, take a look at it. You, ladies and gentlemen, are the first to see this document. Honest to goodness, I finished it 13 seconds before I started up this podcast recording. There's probably typos galore, but I want you to be there if you can. Check it out. Give me your feedback. Jeff, in our few minutes remaining, I'm impressed how you detail in this book or ebook the characteristics of a good travel tribe leader. I think this will help not only the travel advisor say, hey, do I fit this bill? Then I can do it. I can be a leader. Or when you go out looking for one or you see a potential one, you said, okay, you check the boxes: entrepreneurial, salesperson, adventurous, organized. Plus you list, all these different niches. And I think I want you to focus on that for a second, Jeff, because one of the biggest, aside from sourcing the business, I see is travel professionals have a hard time deciding on a niche. Which, man, don't you agree? Doesn't it make it so much easier for them to know who they are and how to present themselves, and for people to find them and know who they are and what they do?
Well, yeah, I think it's the shotgun versus the rifle approach. If you say to the world that you specialize in groups, well, what does that really mean? That information is ubiquitous. But if you can, we talked earlier about marrying your passion or your interest, so you're an insider and you can speak their language, or maybe it's not even something you're passionate about, but something that you can develop an understanding of. You can't touch your toes, so you're not going to be a yoga enthusiast, but if you understand what makes that organization and what drives them and what their goals are, then I think, then once you're able to bring in one of those, then that gives you fuel and ammunition to go and find the next one down the line. So, we all are hungry for new business, of course, and we want to restart this travel industry effectively, but we have to do so smartly. We can't just be chasing our tails through this process. So, you think about, in some of this is using your common sense. Well, who's going to want to reconnect during this process? Who has been doing well? You mentioned in the lady who talked about incentive business. Companies, and some of them have been very profitable through this process. So, we don't want to find paupers who are, trying to scrape two nickels together. We look for where those pockets of opportunity are, with those that have the means to an end. I read a story just the other day about how this pandemic is adversely affecting a certain percentage of the population, while the top 20% of earners are actually doing quite well. And any of us in the travel industry are just bleeding through this. So, I go back, this is something that we learned back in the Premier Cruise Line days, is be cognizant of spending your client's money out of your own pocket. Okay, and what that really means, we were trying at that point in the mid 1990s, we're selling $5,000 family vacations. Okay, right. And that was just unheard of. And we're dealing with travel agents in the 1990s who might have been making $12,000 a year, and they would just be like, oh my gosh, like who would spend $5,000? And we'd be like, plenty of people are going to spend $5,000. Your mission is to go find them. So be cognizant of applying your circumstances to the greater world, because there are a lot of people who, they have not been traveling, so they're saving money. They're not spending money on entertainment, so they're saving money. They're not commuting, so they're saving money. They're not eating out in restaurants, so they're saving money. And how do we multiply that process?
Yep, indeed. Here. I want to come back to how you titled this book, Traveling Tribes. And I want to make sure that everyone listening, every travel entrepreneur listening right now, here's what I'm going to say. If you signed up to be a travel advisor, travel agent, travel consultant, whatever title you've given yourself, you've also signed up to be a travel influencer. An influencer. Because if you tell me, no, you just want to help people, you got to be a little more specific than that. Okay, if you tell me you just want to make sales and make money, I can't help you. It's got to be in your heart. Okay. It's got to be not only part of your passion, but you got to really feel it's your purpose to be an influencer. And for all these reasons, people will follow you. But they got to let you know, as my dear friend, as our friend Mike Marshall always says, let them know you're alive. Let them know who you are, what your purpose and passion is, your niche, your specialty. Start having these conversations now. Get them to follow you. Build your tribe. Early, we started off saying whether you have a list of 6 or 50, it doesn't matter. Jeff, I want to leave you just in a few seconds. The one key thing you want to tell these travel advisors to do today, what would it be?
Yeah, it's really to recognize what you said earlier, is that we're entering the golden age of group travel. The desire to reconnect, to share experiences, to share time, and to make up for all these lost memories that we've had, is to capture that moment and to start that positive momentum going forward, because travel is going to be unique and different and challenging coming out of COVID. If you solve those pain points for customers, you're going to thrive.
Indeed. Here, here. If I could stand up without tearing my headphones off and knocking the camera over, I would, to give you a round of applause. Jeff's book is Traveling Tribes, your next side gig as a group travel influencer. I don't believe it's available via audio book, but it is available via ebook. And the URL will be in the show notes, leisuregrouptravel.com/traveling tribes. Jeff, thank you for being here, my friend. It's great to have this conversation, and I wish you and your family good health.
Thank you, Stuart. Happy New Year, and best to you and your audience.